The massive space station called Nexus hung in the dark between three suns. Ships from across the galaxy docked at its metal arms like insects on a flower. Inside the station's heart, the most powerful beings in the galaxy sat around a glowing table. The Galactic Council met every 3 months. Today, they had one job: decide if humans could join their club. Ambassador Kether looked at the blue hologram floating above the table. Earth spun slowly, showing its oceans and green lands. His crystal body sparkled as he spoke in a voice like breaking glass. "So these humans want to join us?" He laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a storm. "Look at their world. They still burn fuel to fly their little ships. We stopped doing that 1,000 years ago." The other council members nodded. General Vexcorn's red skin grew darker as he got angry. His people, the Krillians, were the greatest warriors in the galaxy. They had conquered 50 worlds. "I have seen their military," Vexcorn growled. "They shoot metal bullets at each other." "Metal bullets? My soldiers use plasma that burns hotter than a sun. Their armor is made of steel. My people wear energy shields that can stop anything." The Luminari representative floated near the ceiling, her body made of pure light. When she spoke, her voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Their minds are chaos," she said sadly. "I can feel their thoughts from here. Angry, afraid, always fighting. They war against their own kind over water and land. How can such creatures understand peace?" The fourth member was harder to see. The Zephyrites worked as one mind in many bodies. Today, 3 of their gray forms sat at the table, but they spoke with one voice. "We have studied their factories," the 3 said together. "Slow, wasteful. It takes them years to build what we build in days. They are like children playing with toys." Ambassador Keth pulled up more images. Human cities with their tall buildings. Human ships that look crude and bulky next to the elegant vessels of other races. Human soldiers in heavy armor carrying simple weapons. "They have only just learned to travel faster than light," Kether said. "And even then, they needed help from the Centauri traders who sold them old engines. Without that gift, they would still be trapped on their little blue world." The council looked at videos of human wars. Explosions and smoke filled the air. Soldiers ran across muddy ground while bullets flew over their heads. Ships on water fired big guns at each other. "Primitive," said Vexcorn. "We fight with honor, face to face, warrior against warrior. They hide and attack from shadows. They poison their enemies and destroy cities full of innocent people. This is not civilization. They cannot even agree among themselves," added the Zephyrites. "One group fights another over who should lead. We have been one mind for 10,000 years. They are still many minds at war." The luminary's light dimmed with sadness. "I have touched the dreams of their leaders. They think only of power and control. They do not seek wisdom or peace. They are not ready for our guidance." Ambassador Keth stood up, his crystal form catching the light. "The question before us is simple. Should we allow humans to join the Galactic Federation? I say no. They are too dangerous and too primitive. Give them 500 more years to learn. Maybe then they will be worthy of our attention." "I agree," said Vexcorn. "They would only cause trouble. Let them stay on their world until they grow up." The luminary's light pulsed once. "They must learn peace before they can walk among the peaceful." "We vote no," said the Zephyrites. The decision was final. Humans would not join the Federation. Not now. Maybe not ever. Ambassador Kether began writing the message to Earth. He made sure to explain exactly why humans were being rejected. Their technology was too basic. Their culture was too violent. Their minds were too simple to understand the greater galaxy. "Should we be gentle in our words?" asked the Luminari. "No," said Kether. They must understand the truth. They are nothing compared to us. Perhaps shame will make them try harder." While the council laughed and wrote their cruel message, a small human ship waited at the docking ring. The ship looked old and simple next to the other vessels. Its metal hull was scratched and dented. It had no beautiful curves or shining lights. Inside the ship, Director Sarah Chung sat at a plain metal desk. She wore a simple blue uniform with no decorations. Her black hair was pulled back, and her dark eyes were calm. She looked like just another human diplomat. Nothing special. Nothing dangerous. The message arrived on her computer screen. She read it slowly, her face showing nothing. But her hands pressed flat against the desk, and her jaw tightened just a little. The message was worse than she had expected. The council did not just reject humanity's request. They mocked it. They called humans primitive children who played with dangerous toys. They said human minds were too chaotic for civilization. They suggested humans might be ready to try again in 500 years. Maybe. Director Chun saved the message and sent a copy back to Earth. Then she sat back in her chair and looked out her ship's small window at the great station. Ships came and went, carrying the important people of the galaxy to their important business. None of them paid attention to one small human ship. That was exactly what Director Chun had hoped for. She pressed a button on her desk. "Navigation, prepare for departure. We're going home." "Yes, ma'am." "Any particular route you want us to take?" Chun smiled for the first time in hours. It was not a nice smile. "The long way. I want to see a few more systems before we report back to Admiral Torres." "Understood, ma'am." As her ship left the station, Director Chun began writing her own report. But hers would be very different from the Council's message. She would tell Earth's leaders about the Council's arrogance, about how they thought humans were weak and stupid, about how they had no idea what was really waiting for them in the dark spaces between the stars. The Council thought they knew everything about humans. They thought they had seen all of humanity's cards. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The small human ship disappeared into the night, leaving behind a council that felt very pleased with itself. They had protected the galaxy from dangerous primitives. They had maintained the peace and order that made civilization possible. Soon, they would discover that humans had a very different idea about peace and order, and war. 3 weeks later, Director Chun's ship landed at the secret base, hidden inside Luna, Earth's moon. The base was buried so deep that no alien scanner could find it. Only a few hundred humans knew it existed. Chun walked through metal hallways that hummed with power. Robot guards scanned her with red lights, then stepped aside. Everything here was built for war, but it was war like the galaxy had never seen. She reached the main briefing room where Admiral Marcus Torres waited. He was a big man with gray hair and scars on his face from old battles. Around the table sat the most important military leaders on Earth. "Let me guess," Admiral Torres said as Chun sat down. "They said no. Worse than that." Chun put the Council's message on the big screen. "They think we're a joke." The room went quiet as the leaders read the alien words. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the head of Earth's secret weapons program, laughed without humor. "Primitive children playing with dangerous toys? They have no idea what toys we've been building." Admiral Torres stood up. "Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time to show them what Earth's children have learned to do." The lights dimmed. New images appeared on the screen. Images that would make the Galactic Council wet themselves with fear if they could see them. "For 50 years, we've let the galaxy think we're weak," Torres said. "We showed them our old rockets and simple ships. We let them see our public armies with their metal bullets and steel armor. We made them think that's all we have." The screen showed something that looked like empty space. But as the image changed, a massive ship slowly appeared. It was black as night and shaped like a knife. Strange symbols glowed along its sides. "The Shadow Fleet," Torres said. 67 ships that don't exist. Ships that can't be seen, can't be heard, can't be touched until we want them to be. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward. "We call it adaptive stealth. Our ships don't just hide from light. They hide from everything. Sound, heat, gravity, even thoughts. When a shadow ship is hidden, it might as well be in another dimension." More images appeared. Ships that seemed to bend space around them. Weapons that looked like they belonged in a nightmare. Soldiers in armor that moved like liquid metal. "How is this possible?" asked General Kim, Earth's top army commander. "The aliens have been spacefaring for thousands of years. How can we be ahead of them?" Torres smiled like a wolf. "Because they've been peaceful for thousands of years. They forgot what real war looks like. They think combat is about honor and fair fights and showing off your strength. Humans never forgot," added Dr. Vasquez. "Every day of our history, we fought someone who was just as smart as us, just as creative as us. We learned to think like our enemies because our enemies were us." The screen showed new weapons. Guns that fired bullets made of compressed gravity. Cannons that could make enemy ships forget they were ships. Bombs that turned solid matter into something like angry soup. "The quantum tunneling drives," Dr. Vasquez explained, "let our ships move instantly from one spot to another. No energy signature. No warning. 1 second, there's empty space. The next second, there's a human warship right behind you. But the real advantage," Torres said, "is up here." He tapped his temple. "Human minds. We think differently than them. They evolved on safe worlds where working together meant living. We evolved fighting each other. We know every dirty trick, every sneaky plan, every way to hurt someone who doesn't expect it." The briefing continued for hours. Earth's leaders learned about weapons that could rewrite the laws of physics. Ships that existed in several dimensions at once. Soldiers whose armor made them faster and stronger than any alien warrior. "How many people know about this?" asked General Kim. "About 300 humans total," Torres said. "Everyone who works on these projects thinks they're working on just one small part. Only the people in this room know the full truth." "And the aliens?" "The aliens know nothing. They think we're still shooting metal bullets at each other. They have no idea we've been watching them, studying them, learning their weaknesses for decades." Director Chun spoke for the first time since the briefing began. "The Council didn't just reject us. They insulted us. They think we're animals that aren't worth their time." "Well," said Admiral Torres, "I think it's time to teach them some respect." On the screen appeared a star map of the local galaxy. Little lights showed where different alien races had their worlds and fleets. Red dots marked the biggest threats. Blue dots showed races that might be friendly to humans. "The Krillians think they're the best warriors in the galaxy," Torres said, pointing to a cluster of red dots. "They've conquered dozens of worlds. Their fleets patrol space like they own it. Maybe it's time someone reminded them that they don't." "What did you have in mind?" asked Dr. Vasquez. "Patience," Torres said. "We wait for the right moment. When the Krillians do something that makes the galaxy angry, we step in. We help the good guys. We show everyone what human toys can really do. And if they don't give us a reason?" Torres smiled again, and it wasn't a nice smile. "Oh, they will. Bullies always do. And when they do, they're going to get a lesson they'll never forget." The meeting went on past midnight. Plans were made. Orders were given. Messages were sent to secret bases around Earth's solar system. The Shadow Fleet began preparing for something the galaxy had never seen. 3 days later, alien spies on Earth sent their reports back to their governments. The humans seemed sad about their rejection, but peaceful. Their leaders made speeches about trying harder and learning from their mistakes. Their military conducted normal training exercises with normal weapons. The spies saw nothing unusual because there was nothing unusual to see. The real preparations happened in places that didn't exist, by people who were never there, using technologies that the galaxy didn't know were possible. In the deepest part of Luna Base, Admiral Torres stood in front of a window that looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Council was feeling very proud of itself for keeping dangerous humans away from civilized space. "Enjoy it while you can," he said to the darkness. "Soon you're going to learn what dangerous really means." Behind him, the Shadow Fleet waited in perfect silence. Invisible ships crewed by invisible soldiers, ready to show the galaxy that humans were done asking for permission. They were ready to take what they deserved, and the galaxy would never see them coming. 6 months after the Council rejected humanity, Battle Commander Zichthul stood on the bridge of his flagship and smiled. Today would be a good day for the Krillian Empire. Today, they would add 3 more worlds to their collection. The Kepler 442 system stretched out before his fleet like a gift waiting to be unwrapped. 3 planets full of peaceful Eldorians who thought their membership in the Galactic Federation would protect them. How wrong they were. "Battle report," Zichthul ordered. His red skin was darker than usual, a sign of excitement among his people. 12 heavy cruisers ready for combat, sir," reported his weapons officer. 43 assault ships loaded with troops. "The enemy has..." "Nothing, sir. Just civilian ships and mining equipment." Zichthul laughed. The Eldorians were a gentle race who spent their time growing food and making art. They had no weapons worth mentioning. No military ships. No way to fight back against the might of Krillia. "Any word from the Federation Council?" he asked. "Yes, sir. They received the Eldorian request for help. The Council is discussing the matter and will consider appropriate diplomatic solutions." More laughter from the bridge crew. Everyone knew what that meant. By the time the Council finished talking, the Eldorians would be slaves or dead. The 3 Eldorian worlds were beautiful. Kepler 442b was covered in vast farms that fed half the local sector. Kepler 442c had mines full of rare metals that made the best spaceship engines. Kepler 442d was home to universities where alien children learned art and science. All of it would belong to the Krillian Empire by tomorrow. "Open communications to all Eldorian settlements," Zichthul ordered. "Let me speak to these cowards." The main screen showed frightened Eldorian faces. They looked almost human, but with silver skin and large dark eyes. Right now, those eyes were full of fear. "People of Kepler 442, Zichthul announced. "I am Battle Commander Zichthul of the Krillian Imperial Fleet. Your worlds now belong to the Krillian Empire. You have 6 hours to surrender completely. Any resistance will be met with orbital bombardment. That means we will burn your cities from space until nothing lives." An elderly Eldorian with silver hair stepped forward on the screen. "Please, Commander. We are peaceful people. We have done nothing wrong. The Federation will do nothing." Zichthul roared. "They talk while we act. They discuss while we conquer. 6 hours. Then you all die." The transmission ended. On his bridge, Krillian warriors cheered and pounded their weapons. Another easy victory for the Empire. But in the dark spaces between the stars, something was watching. The Eldorians tried everything they could. They sent desperate messages to every Federation world, begging for help. They called their families and said goodbye. They moved their children into deep shelters that wouldn't save them when the bombs fell. Some tried to escape in civilian ships, but Krillian fighters hunted them down. The lucky ones were destroyed quickly. The unlucky ones were captured and brought back to face a slower death dot as the 6 hours passed. Long-range sensors detected something strange. Energy readings that suggested ships coming out of faster-than-light travel, but no ships appeared on any screen. Krillian sensor operators looked at their instruments with confusion. "Sir," reported the sensor chief, "we're picking up massive energy signatures at the edge of the system, but visual shows nothing." "Background radiation," Zichthel said without concern. "Or sensor ghosts." "Check the calibration." "Already did, sir. The readings are real, but there's nothing there." "Then it's nothing important." "Some merchant ship with a broken engine, probably." "Focus on the targets." The countdown reached its final minutes. Eldorian families hugged each other in their shelters. Parents sang lullabies to children who would never grow up. Leaders recorded final messages for anyone who might find them. Later. 5 minutes left. 4.3.2. 1 minute remaining. And Battle Commander Zichthel raised his hand to give the order that would murder 3 billion innocent beings. Then space exploded with light. 12 massive ships appeared out of nowhere, surrounding the Krillian fleet like sharks around prey. They were black as night and shaped like knives, covered in armor that seemed to eat light instead of reflecting it. Strange symbols glowed along their hulls in colors that had no names. Every alarm on every Krillian ship started screaming at once. "Sir!" The sensor chief's voice cracked with panic. 12 unknown vessels. They're right on top of us. How did they get so close without us seeing them? Zichthel stared at his tactical display in shock. His fleet was completely surrounded by ships that shouldn't exist. Ships that his sensors hadn't detected until they chose to be seen. "Identify them. What race uses ships like that?" "Unknown design, sir. Nothing in our databases." But I'm picking up transmission codes that identify them as human? Human?" Zichthel couldn't believe it. "Impossible. Humans don't have ships like that. They barely have ships at all." The lid alien vessel opened communications. A woman's voice, calm and cold as space itself, spoke in perfect Krillian. "Krillian Fleet. This is Admiral Sarah Torres of the United Earth Defense Force. You will withdraw from Eldorian space immediately. This is your only warning." The bridge fell silent except for the alarms. Human ships. Human voices. But humans were primitive. They fought with metal bullets and chemical rockets. How could they have ships that appeared from nowhere? Zichthel's shock turned to rage. How dare these upstart humans threaten him? How dare they interfere with the Krillian Empire? He was a battle commander with 50 victories to his name. These primitive apes thought they could scare him? "Human ship," he snarled into his communicator. "You have made a terrible mistake. You face the might of the Krillian Empire. We have conquered 50 worlds while your people were still crawling in mud. Your little parlor tricks don't impress us." Admiral Tar's reply was ice cold. "Commander, you have 30 seconds to begin your withdrawal. I suggest you don't waste them." "Withdraw?" Zichthel laughed loud enough for his whole bridge to hear. "From humans? We will crush you like the insects you are. Then we'll visit your little blue world and show you what happens to those who challenge Krillia." "Weapons ready, sir," called his weapons officer. "Fire everything. Show these primitives the power of a real military." Plasma beams and quantum torpedoes erupted from the Krillian fleet. Enough firepower to destroy a moon-painted space with deadly light. All aimed at the strange black ships. The weapons passed through empty space, where the human ships had been a moment before. Zichthel blinked. His entire fleet had just fired at close range with perfect targeting. Nothing could have dodged that attack. Nothing could have survived it. But the human ships were simply gone. "Where are they?" He screamed. "Where did they go?" "Sir, they're everywhere." all around us. They're moving faster than our computers can track. The black ships had scattered throughout the battle zone using some kind of technology that let them jump instantly from place to place. Before the Krillian weapons had even finished firing, the humans were already responding. But their return fire wasn't anything the galaxy had ever seen before. The human weapons were unlike anything in the galaxy's memory. Instead of plasma beams or energy bolts, they fired something that looked like twisted starlight. The beams struck Krillian ships, and reality itself seemed to break around the impact points. Zichthal watched in horror as his flagship's shields simply stopped existing. Not destroyed or overloaded, they just weren't there anymore, as if the universe had forgotten they had ever been created. His armor plating turned soft like clay, then reformed into strange shapes that hurt to look at. "What's happening to my ship?" He screamed at his engineers. "Sir, the humans are using some kind of reality distortion weapon. Our shields can't stop something that changes the laws of physics." All around the fleet, Krillian vessels found their weapons offline, their engines dead, their hulls intact but powerless. The humans weren't trying to destroy them. They were neutralizing them with surgical precision that seemed impossible. One Krillian heavy cruiser tried to ram the nearest human ship. Its captain thought that if energy weapons couldn't hurt the enemy, maybe raw mass could. The cruiser accelerated to attack speed and struck the black vessel head-on. The human ship didn't even slow down. The Krillian cruiser passed right through it like hitting a hologram, then found itself spinning helplessly as its engines turned themselves inside out. "How are they doing this?" Zichthal demanded. "Ships can't become ghosts. Matter can't pass through matter." "Sir," his science officer said in a shaking voice, "I think they're using quantum tunneling on a massive scale. Their ships exist in multiple dimensions at once. They can choose which dimension they want to interact with." "That's impossible." "The energy requirements alone. Sir, look at their power readings. Each of those ships is generating more energy than our entire fleet. And they're doing it without any heat signature. Their technology is beyond anything we understand." Battle Commander Zichthal had fought in 30 major space battles. He had seen every known weapon, every defensive system, every tactical trick in the galaxy's arsenal. None of it had prepared him for this. The human ships moved like living things, flowing through space in patterns that made no sense. They appeared behind Krillian vessels without warning, fired their impossible weapons, then vanished before return fire could reach them. In less than 2 minutes, Zichthal's mighty fleet was completely helpless. "Damage report," he ordered weakly. "No casualties, sir. No hull breaches. No destroyed systems. But nothing works. Weapons offline. Engines offline. Communications barely functional. It's like they knew exactly how to break us without killing anyone." That last part sent ice through Zichthal's blood. The humans hadn't been fighting for their lives or striking back in desperation. They had been conducting a lesson. They knew his ships so well that they could disable them piece by piece, system by system, without causing a single death. The lead human ship reappeared directly in front of his bridge. This close, Zichthal could see details that made his skin crawl. The black armor wasn't solid metal. It moved and shifted like a living thing. Symbols along the hull glowed with light that seemed to come from somewhere else entirely. Admiral Torres' voice cut through the silence like a knife. "Commander Zichthal, your fleet is now disabled. You have 2 choices. You can order your ships to be escorted peacefully out of this system, or you can wait here helplessly while we call the Galactic Council and explain how the mighty Krillian Empire was defeated by primitive humans using metal bullets and chemical rockets." The bridge crew looked at their commander with fear and confusion. They had been taught that Krillians were the greatest warriors in the galaxy. They had conquered 50 worlds, defeated 100 fleets, struck terror into the hearts of their enemies. Now they sat powerless while human ships danced around them like shadows. "This is impossible," Zichthel whispered. "Your people are primitives. You fight with sticks and stones." The council said, "The council knows nothing about what humans can do," Admiral Torres replied. "They saw what we wanted them to see. Old rockets and simple weapons. Public displays for public consumption. Did you really think that was all we had?" Images appeared on Zichthel's main screen. Human soldiers in armor that moved like liquid metal, carrying weapons that bent space around their barrels. Human ships that existed in 7 dimensions at once. Human factories hidden inside asteroids, milling weapons from compressed dark matter. While the galaxy watched our primitive space program, Admiral Torres continued, "We were developing technologies your people can't imagine. While you conquered helpless worlds, we were studying you, learning your weaknesses, planning for the day you would threaten someone who couldn't defend themselves." "But why?" Zichthel asked. "Why hide this? Why pretend to be weak? Because weak enemies don't worry you. Weak enemies don't get studied and countered. Weak enemies get ignored until it's too late." Torres paused. "The Aldorian colonies are now under the protection of the United Earth Defense Force. Any attempt to return will result in significantly less mercy than you've been shown today. Around the disabled fleet, more human ships decloaked. Dozens of them, all shapes and sizes, all carrying weapons that shouldn't exist. Some looked like metal whales that swam through space. Others were geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly. A few seemed to be made of crystallized light held together by pure mathematics. "How many ships do you have?" Zichthel asked weakly. "Enough," was Torres' only answer. The rescue began immediately. Human vessels moved to the Aldorian worlds, their crews wearing armor that let them breathe in any atmosphere and survive any environment. They brought medical supplies, food, and promises that this would never happen again. The Aldorians wept with relief and confusion. Humans? The same race the Council had rejected as too primitive to join civilized space. These humans had weapons that made gods look helpless. "Thank you," said the elderly Aldorian leader who had begged for mercy hours earlier. "But why? Why help us?" "You owe us nothing." "Because it was right," answered the human commander on the ground. "Because you're innocent. Because bullies need to be stopped. Because that's what humans do." Like in space, Admiral Torres gave Zichthel his final instructions. "Your ships will be escorted to the edge of this system. Your weapons will be returned to working order once you reach Krillian space. Your engines will be restored 1 hour after that. This will give you time to think about what happened here. And then you go home and tell your leaders exactly what you saw. Tell them that humans are not the primitives they thought we were. Tell them that Earth remembers its friends and its enemies. Tell them that the galaxy has new rules now." Zichthel's fleet limped away under human escort, their pride broken and their worldview shattered. Behind them, human ships settled into defensive positions around the Aldorian worlds. Some remained visible as a warning to other would-be conquerors. Others vanished back into the dark spaces between dimensions. Watching and waiting, the news spread across the galaxy at light speed. The Krillian Empire, masters of space warfare, had been defeated by humans in less than 3 minutes. Not destroyed, defeated, humiliated, sent home like scolded. Children with their tails between their legs in council chambers and war rooms across civilized space. Leaders stared at the reports and asked the same question. What else had they been wrong about? The emergency session of the Galactic Council began 3 days after the Krillian defeat. Representatives from across the galaxy filled the great chamber at Nexus Station, their voices creating a buzz of fear and confusion that echoed off the metal walls. "Ambassador," Kethter of the Vortex stood before the same holographic display where he had mocked humanity months before. Now the images showed something very different. Detailed scans of human weapons that broke the laws of physics. Ships that existed in multiple dimensions. Soldiers whose armor made them faster than light itself. "This cannot be accurate," Kethter said, his crystal voice cracking with disbelief. "These readings, they show technology centuries ahead of anything in our databases. How could primitives develop such things?" General Vex Coron sat slumped in his chair, his red skin pale with shock. The pride of the Krillian military had returned home in disgrace, their ships disabled by humans using weapons that shouldn't exist. "I spoke to Battle Commander Zichthel myself," Vex Coron said quietly. 50 years of military experience. 30 major victories. He said the humans knew exactly where to strike, exactly how to disable each ship without killing anyone. They had studied our technology, our tactics, our weaknesses. They planned that engagement before the first shot was fired. The Luminari representative floated near the ceiling, her light dim with worry. I reached out with my mind during the battle, trying to sense the human thoughts. What I found... She paused, her glow flickering. "They don't think like us. Their minds work like predators, not just any predators, but ones that hunt other predators." Every human consciousness I touched was calm, focused, thinking 10 steps ahead of us. The 3 Zephyrite forms at the table spoke in perfect unison, their shared voice heavy with dread. "We have analyzed the tactical data. The human attack was not desperate or improvised. It was a demonstration. They used perhaps 5% of their actual capability. The rest of their fleet remained hidden, watching, ready to respond if we had sent reinforcements." Around the chamber, other representatives whispered among themselves. The Tory bird people ruffled their feathers nervously. The crystalline Nexari dimmed their internal lights in fear. The plant-like Verdani rustled their leaves like wind through a frightened forest. "But how?" demanded Ambassador Kethter. "We watched them for decades. We saw their primitive rockets, their simple weapons, their slow ships. Where did this technology come from?" "They were lying," said a new voice from the back of the chamber. Elder Morden of the ancient Ashaki stepped forward, his forearms gesturing to the holographic displays. "For 50 years, we watched what they wanted us to see. Public space programs, visible military exercises, open diplomatic missions. We thought we were observing their capabilities. We were watching a performance." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Ashaki were the oldest race in the galaxy, observers and record keepers for 10,000 years. If they said humans had been deceiving everyone, it was probably true. While we studied their public displays, Elder Morden continued, they were studying us, learning our languages, mapping our trade routes, analyzing our weaknesses. They sent diplomats who smiled and asked polite questions while their hidden ships watched our fleets and recorded our defensive patterns. "Are you saying this was planned?" asked the Luminari, her light flaring with anger. "That they deliberately made us reject their membership application?" "I'm saying they expected it," Morden replied. "They knew we would see them as primitives, because that's what they wanted us to see. When we rejected them, it gave them permission to act outside our laws and customs. Now they can protect whoever they choose and punish whoever they wish, and we can't claim they broke any agreements." Ambassador Kethter's crystal form blazed with indignation. "This is outrageous. They deceived the entire galaxy. They made us look like fools." "No," said Elder Morden sadly. "We made ourselves look like fools. We judged them by our own standards, never considering that their standards might be different. We assumed that what we could see was all there was to see. We forgot the first rule of survival. Never underestimate a species that survived by fighting itself. On the main screen, new reports were coming in from across the galaxy. Human ships had appeared at a dozen different systems, all places where strong races had been bullying weak ones. Pirates found their fleets disabled by weapons that turned their ships into harmless sculptures. Slavers discovered their holding facilities mysteriously unlocked. Their prisoners free and their guards unconscious. The pattern was clear. Humans were enforcing their own version of galactic law, and they had the power to make it stick. What do they want from us? Asked General Vex single quotes KORUN. As if summoned by his question, the chamber's main doors opened. Director Sarah Chen walked in, followed by two human guards in armor that seemed to be made of liquid starlight. She looked exactly the same as she had months ago. Simple blue uniform. Calm expression. Nothing threatening about her appearance. But now everyone in the chamber knew what humanity was really capable of. Chun took her place at the speaker's podium and looked around the room with those same dark eyes that had watched the council reject her people. When she spoke, her voice was calm and professional. Honored representatives, Earth would like to resubmit our application for Federation membership. The silence was complete except for the hum of the station's life support systems. I trust, Chun continued with the slightest hint of a smile, that you'll find our qualifications adequate this time. Ambassador Kethter found his voice first. Director Chun, given recent events, that is, considering the new information we have about human capabilities, the Council would be honored to welcome Earth into the Federation immediately. Excellent, Chun replied. I'm sure we'll be able to contribute to galactic peace and stability. The vote was unanimous in favor of human membership. There was no discussion, no debate, no conditions attached. Everyone present understood that this wasn't really a request anymore. It was a notification. After the formal ceremonies, Chun stood alone with the council leaders in a private room. The guards and assistants had been dismissed. Now it was time for the real conversation. You planned all of this, accused Ambassador Kethter. You wanted us to reject you. We hoped you would be wiser, Chun replied honestly. We hoped you would see past surface appearances and judge us by our potential rather than our public image. When you chose mockery instead of understanding, you forced us to find another path to respect. And that path involved humiliating the Krillian Empire. That path involved protecting innocent people from bullies. The Krillians chose to attack defenseless colonies. We chose to defend them. The humiliation was their own doing. General Vex Corin leaned forward. How long have you been watching us? Longer than you might think. We've been listening to your communications, observing your fleets, studying your cultures since we first learned faster than light travel. Not to harm you, but to understand you. Knowledge is the best defense against the unknown. And your weapons? Asked the Luminari. Your impossible technologies? When you spend your entire history fighting enemies as intelligent and creative as yourself, you learn to think in ways that peaceful species cannot imagine. You develop weapons for wars you hope you'll never have to fight. You prepare for threats that may never come. Chun paused. Until they do. The meeting continued through the night. Human ships were already patrolling trade routes that had been plagued by pirates for decades. Colonial worlds that had lived in fear of stronger neighbors now slept peacefully under human protection. The galaxy was becoming a safer place, though few dared to ask what the price might be. 3 months later, Ambassador Kethter stood in his quarters aboard Nexus Station, looking out at the ships docked at the station's arms. Among the elegant vessels of the established races was a single human ship, the same small, battered craft that Director Chun had used for her first diplomatic mission. It looked exactly the same as before. Old, simple, unremarkable, But now Kester knew that looks could be deceiving. Somewhere in the dark spaces around the station, invisible human ships watched and waited. They would protect the peace, enforce justice, and remind anyone who forgot that the galaxy had new rules. The humans had asked for membership and been rejected for being too primitive. Now they were members, whether the galaxy liked it or not. And their primitive nature had become everyone else's problem. Keth? Tar touched his crystal fingers to the window and wondered what other primitive species might be, watching and learning and planning their own surprises. In the deep black between the stars, human ships patrolled silently, their crews ready to remind anyone who needed reminding that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one you never see coming. The galaxy would never underestimate humans again, and humans would make sure of it.